It took me 5 tries to know what was I gonna study in university. I first tried nutrition in 2 different universities, then I tried something that doesn't really exist in English, but it's called like informatic engineering in Spanish. Didn't really like that because it was just a little bit of everything, but you didn't really master anything. I tried again with AI and data science, and I actually really enjoyed it, but I realized that my actual perspective was not as good as I thought, because once that I started, I realized that instead of studying AI and data science and being a software engineer on the side, it was better to do it the other way. I underestimated how hard it is to build something with AI and machine learning. And then on my 5th try, that's when I moved on to software engineering. I decided to move myself to software engineering because I participated in a hackathon that I actually ended up winning best proof of concept, and I will tell that story another time. But the head, or one of the judges that was on that hackathon, was one of the heads of the software engineering department at my university, and after having several talks with him, he actually recommended me to move more from the AI and data science to this actual degree, because it was the thing that I was truly pursuing, especially outside of the university, and I ended up switching to that. I'm about to start my 2nd year of the university, and I want to tell this experience not only on why I decided to start university as a mature student, but also why I leaned towards software engineering. When I was 19 years old and I dropped out of university of studying nutrition, I said to myself that just because I wasn't going to nutrition and studying at the university, I wasn't going to stop actually learning on my own. So I made sure to always be reading something and reading and reading. In all honesty, I moved differently because I thought at that time that I really liked coffee, and that was the industry that I was dedicating myself to, but I realized that I didn't like it enough. So around that time, that's when COVID was starting to happen. And during COVID, I had the opportunity to kind of like really reset my life and rethink what I wanted to do with my life. So what I did is that I started to self-learn coding on my own during quarantine, because I realized that it's something that I wanted to do since I was a kid. I just never really had the time to actually reconnect with that part of myself. And I was able to reconnect to that during COVID because I just had more time to think. And I remember that I couldn't do it in Venezuela because when I used to live there, the internet and just my social situation didn't allow me to. It was really hard for me to actually know how to code on my own when you were like 13 or 14 in a country that doesn't really care about coding. But one of the books that I was reading during COVID that it also really changed my perspective on education was a book that's called Zen and the Art of Fixing a Motorcycle. And it goes about the story and the journey of a father and a kid traveling around the States in a motorcycle with a couple of friends, talking about life lessons, really key important things of life, a lot of parenting lessons. But one of the ones that really resonated with me was the story of a mechanic that he mentioned. I can't really explain it super well, but essentially on the paragraph it explains on how this mechanic that went to the university when he was 18 and he was just going and cruising with life, he was not in a correct mental state to actually absorb everything that university had to offer. So what happened was that he went and got a job as a mechanic just in a random workshop, and he realized that he actually liked learning about cars, how they work. He also realized that the expertise that he was gaining from the practice at his day-to-day job was good, but sometimes it wasn't just enough for him to actually fix the car. That caused him to have this lack of power in terms of how to make the decisions at the place, and that's why he decided to go back to university. And when he went back to university, he not only did it for the sake of, oh, I just want to get a degree and that's it, because otherwise I'm not gonna be anyone in my life, but it was more on like, this is the only resource that I have for me to access a better education and get better ideas and better handling at these situations that are unexpected, that I'm able to combine with the practice that I've had of my life and also with the solutions or the theoretical solutions that I can find on my own on university. And that's a completely different perspective than when you go to university and you're 18, you don't really know what to do with your life, you just study for the sake of studying and you don't really take it as seriously as you think, and it's also a really big financial burden for the rest of your life. So I think that it was a blessing in disguise for me, because despite that I was very intentional in the sense that if I wasn't actually learning what I was supposed to be learning at university, I just dropped out. I also realized that it just took me a bit more of trial and error for me to actually find what I wanted to do with my life. Now, to this said, I also say that I want to do this for the rest of my life, but I've never really worked as an official job as a software engineer. And between you and I don't really intend, because I see software engineering as a way of building tools that actually empower people around the world, and it can be solving a very small problem or it can be solving a really complex problem. That depends a bit on the developer and how much problem they want to take, but it's also a harsh reality that nowadays everything is marketing, and I think that people are more interested on why you're building something rather than the something itself. So you need to showcase the reasoning on why you're building that project, and this is why I also started this YouTube channel, because I want to share not only the products that I'm building building, but why I'm building those products and my reasoning behind it. Not only for the people that can be potential users for those products, but also for those that actually want to build things like I do, because I do believe that coding and being an entrepreneur and all of the things, I quite dislike the labels of them. I think that if you do want to make stuff, you will just make stuff. It's something that you're naturally leaning. And if you are not like that, you can definitely become like that. But I decided to study software engineering because it makes me more empowered for me to build the solutions that I see on my day-to-day. If there's an automation that I want to build because it's gonna make my life easier, instead of going to Zapier and actually using a no-code solution, I'll use that as a challenge for me to build it with myself. And nowadays with AI, ChatGPT, Claude, multiple solutions that you can use, I can build those things much faster, because one of the walls that I had when I started coding is that it was really difficult for me to understand how to code. You have a lot of resources and you have a lot of resources online, and the problem is that there's no certain structure to it. Like there's always something that you need to learn, and that's almost dangerous because it makes you feel like you're never learning enough or that you're not ready enough. And the most amount of progress that I made since I started to learn how to code was when I actually started following and creating my own projects with the bare minimum knowledge that I needed, essentially trying to shorten the gap between consuming and creating something. The reason on why I mentioned AI into this, it's because it is a fundamental part of it. If it wasn't because of the help that I'm getting from AI, I wouldn't be able to learn coding as fast as I can. Because as a mature student, I don't really have any financial support from my parents. I'm pretty much working a day job as a personal trainer for me to cover the bills and pay expenses, and I do enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, I love fitness and I love everything that comes with it, but it's not something that I want to do for the rest of my life. And that's why I see it a lot as a means to an end, and I think it's a healthier perspective to have some things in your life like that, because you can't give 100% to everything in your life. It's just not feasible. You might be able to do it for short amounts of time, but you have to prioritize the things that you want in life. And for me, having different things or different categories of life, it helps me understand why I need to prioritize my education and my coding and my software engineer and building projects, all of these things, because they really do fulfill me. It's one of those activities that I can start at 7 a.m. and it's going to be 11 p.m. and I completely forgot about the time and I was completely immersed in the activity that I was doing. There's a lot of myth that you see from the outside when you go to university as a mature student, and in all honesty, I was very good at avoiding all of those mental traps, or how you want to call them, because in reality no one really cares. You're not really as important as you think you are. No one really cares about if you look older in the classroom. No one really cares about why you're starting older. You don't really get any bad eyes just for starting university later, and if they do, it's probably just people that are immature. No one is going to really judge you. And one of the core values that I tend to live my life with is that if time's still going to pass, I might as well try for that thing that is kind of like itching at the back of my brain and that I know that I will want to do at some point in my life. Align my life for me to try to accomplishing that thing, rather than me saying to myself and lying to myself and saying, oh, I'm probably not gonna need that anytime. I think that one of the things that will make it much easier for you as a mature student going back to university is that you need to become really good at adulting. And with that I mean that everything that comes from things that are expected to have for the rest of your life, you need to be really good at preventing them and having them pay minimal stress into your life. I know that like for example, paying rent, probably a lot of people has as a stress, but if you build a good emergency fund, you know that you have there a few months to live by if anything bad happens. You always want to be on top of your bills, you always want to be on top of your credit cards, you always want to be on top of any type of life stress, and getting very good at emotional management, because you handling all of those things that life is going to throw at you is going to help you minimize that part that you don't really are going to remember in 5 years, but you having a fulfilling development during university is probably something that will only happen once in your life, unless you study to degree, which is highly unlikely. And as a final thought, I think that the problem or the misconception that a lot of people have from outside software engineering and coding is that since it's a tech degree, you can always study on your own. That's absolutely true. You have thousands of people that studied on their own and they became actual programmers on their own and they got jobs or they started their own thing, whatever it is. The only thing that I will say to that is that you have to have very minimal life stress coming into your life, a lot of free time for you to make a lot of mistakes on your own and only have yourself to fix it, and you are going to have a much more isolated path than if you were going to university or if you were joining a group of people that were expecting or had the similar skill set that you have. University, it is a small group of people that you'll find that they kind of want the same as you want and they want to improve themselves in the same way that you do. And that can be quite motivating sometimes because it will help you to accelerate the rate of growth that you're learning something. Again, it's never something that you need to do. It's not something that you're going to have to yes or yes do, but but I do think that it's definitely going to help. And on the money side of things, a lot of people love bringing the exception to the rule about how someone dropped out of university and now is a billionaire. Statistically, you're way more likely to become a millionaire if you have a university degree, and people who drop out of university, they were already doing something tangible that it was giving them a lot of time and effort that they needed to put into that thing before they dropped out. It's not that Mark Zuckerberg dropped out and decided to start Facebook. He already had Facebook during university, and it started to become so big that he just couldn't handle it while going to university. That's when you know that you need to probably drop out, and it's going to be a smart decision. But if you're just going to a normal university in a normal degree, you're not really doing anything, you think that dropping out is the extra push that you need in life for you to actually become someone, you're probably gonna have some hardcore realities to face if you make that decision. In the end, you can only follow what you think your intuition is, but I just wanted to give my point of view on why I decided to start university later on in life, and why I do think that I'm taking more advantage because I'm going to university at this stage of my life where I'm much more emotionally mature and I can actually internalize the knowledge that I'm being taught on rather than simply saying, oh yeah, that's great, and then forget about it. Hope you guys like this video, and hopefully there'll be much more to come. Bye bye.